think it's quite in his encyclopedia of heroes, but again, he's done it a couple times before, and they might do it. Enchantress coming out for Motivate.Trust, that is looking like a Snapfire mid.
Yeah, okay. All right, another Snapfire mid, it seems. Polaris Esports, how will they respond? I suppose it's not completely locked in yet. You never know, John. They might go the Earth Spirit mid route. That's still possible, isn't it?
I don't think so, Mike. When Earth Spirit mid was, when Earth Spirit mid was a thing, that was with Snapfire mid as well, wasn't it? It was the same time period.
It was
and
the same
also
person.
Yopaj.
Yeah,
Yopaj and Abed. It's both of them playing that in mid. So maybe, Yopaj hasn't brought back the Earth Spirit mid, so I don't know if it's really relevant there. Against Ember Spirit, I'd prefer Snapfire. Like, you just have so much magic damage, Mike. It's just too much to give up if you go Earth Spirit mid. Unfortunately, Mike, the green guy is going to stay in the background.
Always. Every time. Polaris Esports, they're still thinking heavily about this fourth pickup. 45 seconds reserve time left to make this decision. And you do basically have 2 more cores. I know you kind of talked about the Tusk being POS 3, and you still go down the POS 5 Weaver route or the POS 4 Weaver route. I suppose that is still quite flexible for Polaris as well. Still thinking though. We're going to go down to 25 reserve time. The lanes are looking a little bit rough, I've got to say, for Polaris. You're looking to clean those up, I guess.
Yeah, it's not the earliest presence coming out. They go with a Raid King pick first, so that is hammering the support Weaver. And that might be all our cores picked up here for Polaris. Again, they could still flex Tusk as POS 4, Weaver 5. Go something else in the off lane here for Force, but I feel like you kind of want a different support. Again, Tusk Weaver doesn't provide you with the most reliable way of keeping heroes down. Like, the shards are pretty good. The snowball's there for control. There's not much follow-through outside of Ember Chains and maybe a Raid Fire Blast from Raid King. You don't have the best way of stopping Snapfire Kisses. I think that's a big concern, which is still fixed by a Nyx support. So you could still try for a Nyx. It's just that it's not super valuable against all the other heroes. Like, it's not going to deal with Enchantress well. It might deal with the Earth Spirit decently, but not reliably. So I think Polaris are finding them in a tough spot with that last pick. They might be forced to go with a Tusk Weaver support, and it sounds like it has the same shortcomings as the Silencer Dawnbreaker we saw from Motivate.Trust in Game 1. Not as bad, because there is gank potential with Tusk, but it's not particularly amazing saving themselves from the Chrono here, or doing anything about that control for Motivate.Trust.
Fair enough. Motivate.Trust, final ban out, 15 seconds left, and both teams just really dragging it out all the way. I suppose for Motivate, there is a lot of pressure here in the second game. Of course, if they lose this one, they're out. They'll have to place third. So they will get rid of the Viper now. It does feel like we, Motivate at least, seem to think that we are looking for an offlane in that Viper ban and even the Prophet ban. I tend to agree with them. I don't think POS 3 Tusk is going to be good here. But we'll see. It's Polaris Esports. They're also looking for those offlane bans. For now, they get rid of the Tide. And what would you like Masros to play? I mean, he doesn't have the Mars, he doesn't have the Tide, he doesn't have the Pango. It feels like an okay Timber game. But we don't see Timber very often. But it still feels like a decent enough game for it.
Yeah.
But no.
Provides you a good way of... Ooh.
We'll go down the Magnus route.
You know what? I was playing some late night pubs yesterday. I was chatting with Masaros. He was playing Magnus quite a fair bit that night. So, and there was lobby chatter as well, where I think Fearless was saying if only he changed his name so he could play the Magnus. There it is. He picks the Magnus up. He's been practicing it. We don't get to see the Masaros Magnus all too often, but it ties in well. With the Faceless Void, you've gotten power, so damage being an issue in the Chrono, not going to be too much here. You have a way of amping up that Faceless Void, and you have a way of making him flash farm as well. Polaris, Grimstroke picked up. That is looking like the offlane Tusk now for Force. So they're just going to try to play with the Soulbind. They don't have the best Soulbind combos, though. Like Walrus Punch, Great Fire Blast. Really it. Not much else. I suppose now for Polaris, with Savius playing that Weaver, their best save from the Chrono is Time-Lapse. So Weaver Ags might be really impactful here from Polaris if they can get a good timing on it.
Yeah. I mean, you can also kind of inkspoil your teammate, maybe force Jackie away. I guess if they're on the edge, you could snowball. But yeah, I mean, it is basically just time-lapse with the Ags. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, do you like the Grimstroke? Because you were kind of leaning towards having the Pos 3 task. So do you think the Grimstroke is a good addition to finish off this draft for Polaris? Because they obviously are looking for a 2-0 victory if they can get it.
Not quite. I don't think the Grimstroke has too much value here. Again, Inkswell's probably your best spell in this situation. Soulbind isn't going to do too much, mainly because you don't have great Soulbind combinations. No Finger, no Laguna, no Hex. So the value from that spell is not that high. I do prefer Motivate.Trust draft overall. I think when Polaris picked that Tusk early on with Weaver, they were gunning for it off lane, and the moment the Void came out, that lane just became unplayable. Tag team versus Time Walk, cooldowns are very similar. Face's Void's always protected, and it's just nearly impossible to zone him out with the Enchantress standing around as well. So your best bet is just harass Boomboy out, but it's an Enchantress. And to overall, Motivate.Trust have better team fight in this game compared to game 1. They've got really good scaling. They've got decent early timings with a Snapfire mid.
That they do, John. We'll get into it. Game number 2 between Polaris Esports and Motivate.Trust set to get underway right now. Motivate backs against the wall. Need to win this game 2 to proceed to a game 3 and keep their chances alive of a rematch grand final between Boom Esports and themselves. Polaris Esports, though, they'd love to have their opportunity in the grand finals, and I've got to say, John, I don't think anyone was quite expecting Polaris to make it this far, but they've had a fantastic run, looking amazing. This new stack, or rather the old stack that is back. Name changes and all, everything working out for them. It's now Force. Are they going to smoke up as 4? They'll wrap around the long way towards that Radiant Triangle. Ward's placed down. Masaros not going to break the smoke yet, but Q will, and they'll notice in time to get out. Q just in the right place at the right time. May have just saved Masaros' life. Polaris, apart from getting that boundary in on the Radiant Triangle, they'll get nothing else, it seems.
Yep. Not going to get that first split opportunity they want. They already commit to the tag team level 1 from Force. So, you know, he's going to be stuck with that. In lane, it's still, again, very good, but you probably don't want to focus on Jackie. And looks like Motivate.Trust still sticking around the area. I don't think they really want to force that fight on their end. Their level 1's a little bit weaker. You're just going to have to surrender. Maybe just prevent any sort of clump up for an early kill. But not too much excitement here.
Yeah, just a 2-for-2. I say that Natsumi's still not going to be able to pick it up yet, a roll in, but Q does take it. So it's going to be a 3-for-1 trade, as Natsumi was unable to take the other. In the end, Motivate.Trust able to get a very slight net worth lead early on in the game. And while we're here top lane, of course, you've got Q there with Masaros against Natsumi and Mavis. His laning phase does seem rather aggressive from Motivate.Trust. I suppose it can go either way, though, because you do have the double stuns from Natsumi and Mavis, John. Who do you give the advantage to in this top lane?
I think it's really even. It depends on the level spikes. If you hit level 3 faster on either side, you feel a lot better. What is scary, though, is the repositioning of Motivate.Trust. If you get a good kick, you can kind of line that up for a skewer. So you can literally kick someone from right at their tier 1 to midway across the lane. And that might cause some issues for Polaris if they're not ready. But that takes a lot of good timing and coordination. And probably not the best bet until you can maybe get someone back to the tier 1. So should be even. Farm-wise, I think Natsumi's going to have a decent time. Masaros, once he hits level 2, level 3, with a Shockwave has better ways of controlling the lane. But you will have to get levels up. And Q's already trying to pull. It is intercepted midway through. So he's not going to get that free XP he'd want. Instead, Natsumi's going to have a pretty easy time getting denies and farm here.
Absolutely. Because we'll have a look at the other lanes as well while we still do have a chance. You've got Fearless in the mid lane on that mid Snapfire against the Ember being played by Lelouch. Now, you mentioned that you think the Snapfire should have a pretty decent advantage. So far, correct, John. 7-1 in comparison to 4-1. Is there a point where Lelouch should be able to take over, or do you expect Fearless to constantly have the advantage?
I think it's a constant advantage for the Snap. For the Ember, it comes down to mechanics. Like, I like what Lelouch is doing in comparison to what we saw Masaros do in the first game he had to play against Snap. He did go for 1-2-0. So no Flame Guard. He knows it's going to burn. There's no point in getting that when the Snapfire just nukes it down. And instead, he's looking to play aggressive with the Searing Chains and Slight, which is what you need to do. Now, for Lelouch, he has to kind of use that Slight to farm and to dodge out the Cookie and the Scatter Blast. Not the easiest spells to read, especially the Scatter Blast. Its cast animation is very similar to attack, to the auto attack. So it boils down to him getting a good read on how the Snapfire plays that lane.
The bot lane, of course, Boom Bowie right now being chased down by Xavius. In the meantime, though, top lane is where the first blood does occur. Masaros ends up dropping here to Mavis. They do, in the end, get that double stun going and do secure a kill onto the mag as Q had left the lane. Great start here for Polaris already. But back down to the bot lane for a second, we've got Xavius in force against Jackie, and, of course, Boom Bowie, who has rotated now to find himself a nice creep. And this lane, Jonathan, who do you throw the advantage to this time around?
This one's really even. I don't think you're going to be able to harass out the Weaver and the Tusk with a Faceless Void +1. The Enchantress just can't really zone them out all too well. You can grab a nice creep, and Boom Boy is just doing typical Enchantress things, going to the triangle, checking for stacks, grabbing Rune. But you can't really do much to stop that. Still Natsumi up top, though.
He got skewered back into that tier 1 tower. Roll's not going to connect here. He's still in pretty big danger, but the Ink Swap might buy him a little bit of time. But they have the skewer and the boulder smash. In the meantime, mid lane Lelouch dropping so low, but Jackie, he's going to end up dropping a Xavius. So every lane getting aggressive at the exact same time. But yeah, Jackie boy, he ends up going down. So pretty much a direct pos 1 for pos 1 trade.
I'm a bit surprised by the Void dying. In fact, I'm a bit surprised by Jackie's build. He opted for Time Dilation level 2, leaving Time Walk at 1. And we talked about the back and forth with Tusk and Faceless Void, kind of boiling down to tag team cooldown. If you look at tag team, like level 2, 21-second cooldown. Level 2 cooldown of Time Walk is 18 seconds. So by level 2 Time Walk, you don't die. But Jackie instead opted for the Time Dilation, which you can't really hook up aggressively with the Enchantress. You could maybe try to play with a slow stacking with Enchant, maybe get some control off with a creep, but for the most part, Jackie's been alone in the lane. So he took a massive risk going for a more sort of offensive build with Time Dilation to get some slows off, and he's being punished. I think he's going to have to reread the lane, respect the fact that if you don't Time Walk, if you don't have Time Walk up, the physical output of a Weaver and a Tusk would tag team up can overwhelm a Void, and it's just, I think it boiled down to that skill choice. Like, again, level 2 Time Walk would have saved him, level 2 Time Dilation doesn't do enough to stop them from jumping you.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it has been a bit of a rough time for Boom Bowie. Like, we've seen him just kind of running across the map, trying to find some creeps to enchant. He finally does kind of get one, but it's kind of like you mentioned, Johnny. He just hasn't returned back into the lane and is currently just focusing on farming the jungle himself. So a bit of a rough time already for Motivators. But they've got to ensure Jackie has a good time this game. I mean, last game he was having a good time, but just couldn't transition on the Wraith King. You don't want him to really start off badly on the Faceless Void either. It's not exactly a flash farming hero, even with the Empower up from the mag. In Polaris, they've been shown to be pretty darn strong as of the last few days, so can't underestimate them. Even with these little deaths on Jackie, they do start to add up. And you do have a draft on Polaris that can just start snowballing out of control if you're not too careful.
Yeah, they've got early timings to hit with a Wraith King. Even the Ember can contribute early on. The push potential coming through with the Skeletons can overwhelm the side of Motivate.Trust if they're not careful. They've got decent wave clear, but that laning pressure is still going to come through from Polaris. So Motivate.Trust has to really protect their win condition, ensure that the scaling's there. And not only that, but you're also going to need items on Masteries a bit faster, right? Like, you want that blink to be up ASAP, to have the threat of a skewer back, to have the threat of RP on hand. And that means your Void and your Magnus will be eating up some jungle space together, which can kind of slow that pace. We saw that from Polaris in Game 1, where Force was also playing a bit slower. They were, again, playing very defensively in Polaris' side. I think Motivate.Trust will have to play that same way here. Replicate that defensive play, avoid bigger engagements, ensure that they get space out for their Faceless Void, and build up into that 20-25 minute mark for themselves.
Okay, fair enough. Well, pause is still going on, John. Have you had Merienda today? I mean, it's finals day. Surely you have.
Did I have? No, I actually didn't. I do have a donut waiting for me.
A donut?
After the series. Yeah, like, you know, we're going to have a bit of a break going to Grand Finals to give whichever team goes in to play against Boom a little bit of a breather. So I've got a nice jelly donut waiting for me. Nice stuffed up. It's in a ref. I'm going to have to microwave it like a degenerate, but it is what it is, Mike. How about you?
You eat a lot of donuts, John. I noticed you eat
I love
a lot of
donuts.
Yeah.
Donuts are great. You know, it's not very nutritionally great, but it's great food. I'm curious about you, Mike. Isn't today a very special day for you?
Oh,
and the missus?
yes. The wedding anniversary. John, it's more important for the finals. You know, I'm saying this very carefully, but Dota Pro Series finals are on, right? We've got to celebrate after the finals are done. But yes, it is anniversary day. Haven't done anything, though. Not yet. We're going to celebrate tomorrow, John. Have no plans, though, which is going to be a little bit concerning. You can tell I'm a very good husband.
Absolutely, Mike. You know, could definitely tell. Happy anniversary to you, Mike, and the wifey.
Thank you.
Hopefully she's happy. Hopefully she's happy, and hopefully she's not watching Mike after what he said.
She doesn't, John. She doesn't bother watching me. It's been 6 years now, John. 6 long years, sir.
6 years.
My goodness.
Man, time flies.
Yeah. Never thought I'd get to this point. Back when I was in high school, John, just never thought I'd get married, but here we are. 6 years later.
Yeah. 6 years. I believe the Australian term is ball and chain, is it not?
It is, Jonathan. Thank you for that. The old ball and chain, that's what we say. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, I don't have too much to say about it. It's been a pretty big, interesting experience.
Yeah.
Still, back to the game, John. Back to that. Motivate.Trust and Polaris. I wonder how much longer this pause is going to last. Looks like Fearless has had some big issues here on the Snapfire. I guess there is going to be a pretty decent game for Fearless on this snap. I mean, he's 23-6 right now. Apart from the issues he's having with the internet, having a pretty good game. You talked about the Ember matchup. It hasn't really worked out great for Lelouch, as apparently Zex is going to let them know they do have 5 minutes of pause time left here for Motivate. We'll see how much they can get done with this kind of good start that they've got going on Fearless.
Yeah. I think once you hit that Snapfire 6, that's when the lane really explodes. You can just try to pin down the Ember, get the kisses out. Again, Lelouch has gone for the right play. He's opting to max out Sleight of Fist and Chains. Whereas I think even when we saw Masteros Fearless have to deal with Yopaj's snap in the second game they played against Boom, he went for a 1-3-1 build. And I think that's still not enough because you can't really fully threaten with just level 1 Searing Chains. It had to be higher. So a 2-3-0-1 build by 6 is a lot stronger for Lelouch, and I think that's what he's gearing up for. Again, giving you some play opportunities against the snap, giving you more catch potential as well in the back line. We talked about that from draft a bit, Mike. Polaris don't have the best ways of canceling out the kisses from the snap outside of the Ember. Maybe once you have the Tusk blink, it gets a little bit easier to blink up, get the snowball, get the Walrus Punch off to cancel off the kisses. But until then, your most highly mobile hero is really just Lelouch. And the Ember is kind of set to take that responsibility. So Fearless having a great time, but I think Lelouch is actually getting a little bit more than you expect in lane. Lagging behind in CS, but his skill build is on the right track there.
All right. That's fair. He'll return back into the mid lane now. They do have a rotation coming in from their Weaver. Lelouch not going to be able to get it in range to land those chains out yet, but Fearless now is going to cop it. Thing is, though, he does have some help, but Mavis going to deny the water in away. He might be punished for this, though, as you've got the cookie up, but they're going to go for the roll first. Into the cookie, onto the Grimstroke. Mavis, he gets the deny on the water rune, but he does pay for it with his own life.
I think you're still all right with that in Polaris' end, and then because you're giving Lelouch a little bit more room in the lane, you know, get some CS, get some EXP for himself, rush that level 5, rush to level 6, which is when the Ember starts to be able to kind of hold that lane against the snap. You don't want to be at half a level disadvantage even, because that kiss timing from Fearless, we've seen it from Yopaj. Once that kisses is up, Ember can't really do much about it.
Bottom lane, Jackie again in a spot of danger, but is going to be able to time walk away this time. Problem is, every time he does approach the creep wave, you're always going to have Force who can just pop the tag team and get aggressive with Xavius. Jackie will have it by his tier 1 tower now, but you can see Xavius already posturing very aggressively, forcing him to pull the creep wave back every time. Boombill now, he will come back into the lane. I suppose with the Weaver around, there's not really too much he can do. Xavier should always be able to zone out Boombill, or rather Boombui, and Force should remain fine.
Yeah, Force is just building up nicely on that Tusk. Up there in CS, about to hit the phase boots timing. Just when the right-click damage coming through where that tag team starts to really escalate. Jack Boys, though, using that time dilation well. Xavius is actually in trouble.
Yeah, he will drop. So Jackie able to pick up this kill onto the Weaver. That'll be the first of the game for him. Definitely good news for Motivate now as Force. They'll try to intercept the large creeps, but doesn't quite get there. In the meantime, mid lane, they've got the Ember. Kiss is going to be committed, and Lelouch does end up dropping, so Fearless now able to set up. We saw this yesterday a lot from Yopaj against the Fearless Ember Spirit. They roll in onto Xavius from Q. That'll be about it. That'll allow Fearless to get out just fine. In fact, he might reinitiate now with the Invis rune onto Xavius, but never mind, he does reveal himself. In the meantime, though, Masaros does end up going down. Q not going to go for the aggressive roll-in. Does just sit back and accept the fact that Masaros is already gone.
Yeah, it's a good pick-off for Polaris, just bullying that Magnus when it's left alone. We kind of saw Motivate.Trust do the same thing when Force was playing the Magnus. When at Mags alone, it doesn't have much laning presence, doesn't have much of a threat without setup, so you just kind of use that opening. Still a lot of emphasis on mid. Boomboy?
They're going to move in. Xavius will go on to Fearless. I'd love that Snapfire right now as Lelouch. He's going to throw all the remnants forward, and they've got him. They'll take one down, and they'll find another Boom Buoy to drop. He does get the stun off, but it won't matter. They're onto that tier 1 mid tower now. And with that siege creep available and all the creeps they've got, that might be the tier 1 mid gone.
Yeah, they've got the damage. Motivate.Trust not in position to really defend. They do have RP ready, but I don't think Masaros can even come in. No TP up, so mid-tier 1 gone. Sub 10 minutes, 7 minutes in. Very early T1 for Polaris to take, and that opens up the map. They can start to apply pressure in the jungle, check out the triangle for stacks, slow down the Magnus and Face's Void farm, and just throw off Motivate.Trust pacing if they're not careful here.
In the meantime, Natsumi's just left to freely farm up on that Wraith King. Absolutely no problems here for him. Masaros, he's going to try and farm the large camp, but there is help around if Natsumi does decide to move in. And Xavius now, he's going to scout out the Magnus. Maybe just not confident that they can actually stun him in time before the skewer does fly out. They'll leave him be. However, rotations are coming. Motivate.Trust might want to try and force a fight. Xavius is still on the map, but the RP just going to be committed right away into the stacks. But
what?
Yeah, the neutral creeps, they just get him. It was a risky play to drag him right into the stack, and in the meantime, Jackie's going to drop on the Void again. Lelouch, he won't be able to get Boom Buoy, but who cares? You've got the better target.
Oh, that feels so bad for Motivate. Still on the chase though, Mavis.
Yeah, they might be able to find a Grimstroke, but Natsumi, he's going to join in with the Inkswell out. Oh, they'll get one kill on the Grimstroke. Natsumi, no reincarnation skilled up, so he does have to be a little bit careful, but well, you've got to feel bad if you're Motivated. I mean, you go for RP skewer back into the stack, and the stack just gets the kill. That is just so depressing.
Yeah, I think they maybe expected that they could stun out the stack and get the last hit off onto the Weaver. They do miss out. At the least, their stack isn't taken by the enemy team. Jackie comes in, clears out the Ancients for himself, and this is the point where that farm starts pouring up. They can start considering playing around with future Chronos once the Face's Void is up and running, combining that with the Kisses and hit their own spikes. I still feel like Motivate.Trust will need to find a tower though. That top tier 1 needs to go to open up the top jungle a bit more, to extend their farming area from the triangle up north, and that mid tier 1 needs to be equalized at some point. The issue for Motivate.Trust is their push is mainly on the Snapfire here.
Boom gonna get caught out here. Xavius, well, they've got the heal out, so it's going to take a bit more time. Ensnare onto Lelouch, but it won't matter. He's got the range with the Sleight of Fist, and that'll be enough. They might just go for more now. There's only a 1k net worth advantage for Motivate at the moment, so I think Polaris could easily keep the fight up. But they'll be very careful, because you are close to that tier 2 mid. In fact, that's why you've got to be careful. They've got plenty of control, and they'll get the kill onto Lelouch.
Some of their starch.
That's all it takes. Roll in with the silence, and with the Mortimer's Kisses out from Fearless, it's not too much work.
Definitely not. And Motivate.Trust are riding on the back of the Snapfire quite well. Fearless still having a good time with farm. It does have the travels up, so he's got the move speed, the map presence as well to just show up, clear out waves, look for a kill opportunity. The blink not too far off for Fearless, and that's where things get spicy. I'm actually curious if Fearless will go for the same build-up as Yopaj. So far, it's the same. Travels, blink. Next item would be Yule's. And then we've got to see if he can land that Yule's Cookie combination.
I mean, it just seems to go the utility build. Makes enough sense. I imagine he will just go the exact same build. I mean, keep in mind, he did play Ember against that mid-Snapfire twice and did get owned twice. So I think he will just replicate the build as the top lane, Lelouch. Gonna move in onto Boom Bowie with force. They'll get the Walrus Punch out, and the Sleight of Fist will be more than enough. Get the job done there with the Ember. The worst part is you haven't even got a Maelstrom up on this Ember Spirit yet. I mean, once that comes out, the damage is gonna fly up quite a bit. Massaros and Q gonna try and get aggressive, but the Soulbind is there. It's the RP though. They've got Fearless to join in. That'll be Mavis gone, and they should be able to find another. Force though, nice snowball, but he is not gonna get to the high ground. He will remain on the low. Lelouch, he just could not help out.
Yeah. Great trades coming out from Motivate.Trust, punishing off that Tusk off lane for looking to play a bit too aggressive. Yeah, still need to respect the counterfight from Motivate.Trust. RP, Masteros at this point is just willing to throw it out in softer targets to find those kill opportunities. Lelouch will try to be annoying defending that top here when they understand they can't afford to open up this top jungle to give farm towards that Faceless Void.
Yeah, Q, he's going to try to run. They've got the bugs out. In fact, the chase will be on, but the silence is there. Lelouch is going to be careful, but he doesn't have to be careful though. Q does jump in, and now in fact they found another. Looks like Massaros is set to fall here to the Ember. Fearless, he'll be the third target to get picked off. The snowball does connect. And Polaris, they're doing it again, John. Jackie, in trouble now, is going to be forced to time walk away. Because he does still have the chrono, but without the Snapfire up, you don't have the damage. So I don't think they can really commit the chrono for any form of a kill right now. And Polaris, they'll happily walk away.
Yeah, just great use of their movement advantage with the Ember. Like, Lelouch is actually setting up all these kills for his team, having to follow through with the Inkswell, timing his chains out right to get that control off. And as long as Polaris play like that, deny Motivate.Trust the opportunity to get their big teamfight combination with the Chrono Kisses, Motivate.Trust are just forced to then rely on mainly Masaros to actually find those kills by himself. Like, they rely on that RP to get off onto multiple targets, clean out the softer ones, but we haven't seen a big chrono committal with the Kisses, and I think that's just a massive tool that Motivate.Trust, if they're not using, then it's sort of like with Naga Siren and Disruptor, right? You're not using Song into Static Storm, it doesn't feel great. Same thing with Chrono Kisses. If that combination doesn't fly through, you're losing a big part of your tool to take these fights, and Polaris can just play very well against it.
They are making a smoke rotation up top. Boom Bowie going to try and hide in the tree line, but the smoke is going to break and force. He knows exactly where Boom Bowie is. The Walrus Punch, Inkswell will be there. It's a bit of a slower process, but it won't matter. They still get the inch. In the meantime, Motivate, they're going to smoke up as 4 and perhaps try to get this Chrono Mortimer's Kisses combo working. It looks like they have spotted Natsumi in the mid lane as Massaros. He'll get in with the skewer back. They're going to have to take him out twice. Soulbind is there. Big Chrono out. Jackie, he's caught 3 targets. They'll go right after the supports first. Already taken down Mavis, but they can't quite find the Tusk. In fact, in the meantime, Massaros, he's already ended up going down without buyback. Lelouch, he'll join the team fight. Polaris, they can just go for way more as they found Jackie on the Void now, and they can take him down in time. He could not get the time walk off. In fact, they might even find more as Xavius was continuing the chase. We'll have to eventually back off, I think, because he doesn't really have the teammates around to help him out. In fact, never mind, he does. Force he's in. Snowball will save him by time. Back on a Fearless they go, and Lelouch will join the team fight. The Snapfire is going to drop as they even find Boom Bowie. Just very aggressive plays here from Polaris, all working out, as it seems like they even want to try and dive Q. Mavis, though, does get caught by the skewer of Massaros into the RP, and they at least find a support. But that's about all they're going to find.
Yeah, I think that in that entire engagement, they only killed Mavis twice. Like, it was Mavis that died in the Chrono, and Mavis who dies after respawning. So you don't really find the biggest trade there for Motivate.Trust. It feels a lot better for Polaris, and it boils down to a couple of issues now. You have Void into Raid King. Your Chrono will not kill off a Raid King twice over in that duration. You just can't. So you're always going to catch him out and not have enough to really kill him off. They do manage to catch out Xavius, but no detection somehow.
Oh, that's a problem. He has stick charges, he has Sakuchi, Sentry down now, but it's all too late.
What?
Yeah, that's really problematic because he's still trying, but
No.
Xavius is okay. Oh, and Jackie drops the bot lane in the meantime. I mean, this is a problem, John. You can't hunt Weaver without dust. And in the meantime, Jackie, he just gets taken out. I mean, it just can't get any worse for Motivate.
Yeah, it's looking pretty ugly right now. They come out strong from lanes once more. Maybe Jackie's lane is a bit slower. Masaru's lane is a bit more back and forth. But you had this really good start for Fearless. He hit those spikes against the Ember. They just don't manage to get the combinations. And we talked about that from Draft. When you go with Snap and Void, it does feel like you kind of need to emphasize that early kisses in Chrono. We saw it once. They can't deal with a Wraith King. They have to actually catch the Ember with a Chrono. I think that's the key target you want in that control. Lelouch has to be caught out, but he's just so slippery. He waits until the last moment to show up, and at that point, he's got the Inkswell stun on him. He's got all his spells off cooldown. He's going to be able to melt through you, and his damage output now with just the Maelstrom is enough to really overwhelm all the heroes inside of Motivate.Trust.
Top lane, though, they at least make the jump back in on Xavius, but he's got the time lapse.
No.
Oh, I mean, this is getting worse and worse as we go on. Q now, just going to be turned on as Force just blows him up. Just the uppercut was more than enough, and now Boom Booey's been caught. Snowball will land. Lelouch is going to join in. Jackie, have you got the Chrono? He does, but I don't know if he can really get one off. RP's there, though. That'll drag him right back in, and Jackie, he'll commit the Chrono now. Fearless, though, no kisses available, but they at least get forced down, and there goes Lelouch. They finally get a team fight going, but Jackie, can he get himself out? Wraith Fire Blast is there, onto the Void. He'll keep trying to time walk away, but they might just have the damage, and they do. It looked good to start, but it doesn't look great to end. They will find another. And Deso's now completely up on Natsumi. You saw how much damage he was dealing on that Wraith King. That was without the Desolator. Now with it up, or at least Roshan is going to be open here from Polaris.
Not going to take too long. You've got the Weaver with a swarm up. You've got a lot of damage flying through here from Polaris' end. And for Motivate.Trust, the big Chrono was there. They caught out the supports. They kill off Lelouch. They forced the buyback on the Ember. So it's not the worst scenario for Motivate.Trust. It's certainly not a very good scenario anyway. They've got to deal with 2 lives on Lelouch, 2 lives on Natsumi. So even if you catch the Ember in Chrono, you have to kill him twice. And that's where the Void just falls flat. Void versus Wraith King is just not a very good matchup for Jackie. Compound that with the fact that now Lelouch will have 5 minutes of 2 lives. I don't think you can really force anything from Motivate.Trust. You might just want to look for support kills, maybe kill off the Tusk, but the bigger cores takes way too much commitment to kill.
Xavius has been caught out again, but I say that there's so many ways for him to get out. Fearless, though, he's really been caught out. Lelouch going to give the tip over. Maybe just kind of sending that message, John. This is how you play Ember vs Snapfire. And, I mean, it's working out for him. He lost the lane, and in fact, he's still behind in net worth, but they are still winning the game quite heavily. It's top lane. Natsumi onto Masaros. He'll try to skew out, but Xavius is going to be right behind him. And Lelouch will take another kill on the Ember. Back mid lane now. They found Jackie again on the Void. He'll just drop instantly to the support of Mavis and Force of the Tusk. And now they'll get another. Make it Boom Booey to drop 4 down on Motivate. And this game just looks harder and harder as more time goes on.
I think the key now for Motivate.Trust, Mike, is honestly high ground defense. Maybe a Roche fight can work out in your favor as well with RP and Chrono. But it feels like the play is to just play defensively, try to defend towers as best as possible. Don't overcommit like this.
Oh, Fearless. Oh, it's the mid lane of Motivate.Trust. They just cannot get any space now. Polaris 7k net worth advantage. Looking very good to take the second game out and get themselves to the grand finals. If this keeps up, and I'm looking back at Jackie, he just doesn't have the farm. You're still so reliant on the Chrono plus kisses. I don't see him killing many people off without that. Sure, you have the Empower, and he does have some damage, but even in the perfect Chronos he's been throwing out, they just aren't proving to be enough.
No, it only really cleans up the supports. And again, maybe you kill off the Tusk or Ember, but even after, because you commit so many spells in the Chrono, The Raid King has a free time to just stand around and get hits. Like, Natsumi doesn't even need a BKB this game. He doesn't have any control to worry about because he knows all of the spells will be thrown out on his first life in the Chronosphere. Although Natsumi a bit forward, keeps RN to defend that bot tier 2 here.
They have Chrono. They're going to try and commit it onto Natsumi. Keep in mind, he has Reincarnate, John. I'm not sure about this. Boom Booey in the meantime, he gets caught out, and now Jackie's been silenced, but a nice RP. Masaros, he'll try to jump back in, but Lelouch, he'll take down Jackie already. Onto the next. They'll take down Q and Fearless. Take a knee, peasant, says Natsumi, as they get the bot tier 2 tower. This game is looking very, very over now. That seemed like the best they had, and it's just not enough.
No, it's not. That was a very... I don't know if desperate's the right word, but a very forced Chrono out from Jackie, right? Chrono onto the Raid King, the one target you know you're not going to kill through that first life, or through the second life through Chrono. They take the first life, that gave enough time for Lelouch to find a better angle. You suddenly lost all your control and damage to deal with the Ember. And Lelouch still stands around, still has Aegis for a minute and a half. The bot rack's not going to last too long. Mega Creeps or any further racks are still out of the question. Mid tier 2, top tier 2 still stands. So Polaris can't find too much off the back of that win. But they elevate their lead here, Mike. 13 to 31, 12k, 13k lead on hand. And for Motivate.Trust, I think it really just starts to boil back to high ground defense. You have Skewer, you have RP, you have the Kisses to launch from a mile away, you have Chrono. You kind of need to play in these very confined areas. You do not want to force these fights outside anymore.
You can't. Just no choice. I mean, Fearless, you can see him kind of rocking back and forth, trying to figure out whether he can go down bot lane. And he was correct to back off. And Polaris, smoking up his 3 around Lelouch. You can move into that Radiant Triangle if they wish. They still do require to get that tier 2 mid tower, but that's no problem as Jackie again has been caught out here by the Ember. Aegis is up. Meanwhile, Fearless, he's dropped bot lane. They've already lost the Snapfire, but they might lose the Aegis on Lelouch. In fact, never mind, they won't. They are forced to back off too early on, so the jump is in onto Q. But who are you really aiming? They want Jackie and they'll get the chains out. Snowball will be there onto 2 Heroes Force. It's all perfect. In the meantime, Radiant base, Motivate, they are just running back towards the fountain. And I don't think Motivate have a great way back into this game now, as they are just getting picked off left, right, and center.
Yeah, it's a tough game. It all boils down to just holding high ground, maybe baiting them in close to your fountain, and just going for the skewer plays back. You can get a couple of big streaks back your way, get some gold back in that manner, and hope that your Void and Magnus start to build up there. The big issue now is you're EXP starved on the snap. Like, Fearless is still level 14. The last time we saw that mid snap from Yopaj, he'd be around level 18 at this point. We're going into the level 20 mark, you know, hitting those talent spikes with the little shredder using attack damage, and he's starting to itemize for the Daedalus. And that's still a sort of a pipe dream here for Fearless. And there's not much they can really do to compensate for that. They don't have map control left. Look at all the wards from Polaris. Watching the lanes, all very aggressive, ensuring that no one can step outside base, and just punishing any sort of...
Oh, Jackie, he's been caught out again with the Ink Swan. Just look how fast he goes down. It just takes a Walrus Punch. Onto the Earth Spirit. Masaros, he'll go for a skewer back, but they've got nothing to work with. They've got no Void. He's not buying back either. I think they're about to call it. I mean, you've got the buybacks there, but yeah, they call it GG. Motivate.Trust, they will be out in 3rd place in Polaris Esports. Make it all the way through to the grand finals of the BTS Pro Series Season 9. And John, who would have believed that? If you told them before we started that Polaris was going to make it all the way here, I don't think anyone would have believed it.
I wouldn't have, especially considering their Pro Series 8 performance. Their Pro Series 9 group stage performance wasn't the most amazing coming through from Polaris. But this is the Polaris we expected early on when we saw this lineup reunite. And this is the kind of gameplay we were looking for. And Motivate.Trust falling a bit short, but Polaris playing so aggressive. They're on such a great hot streak. They've just been on an absolute roll, hitting all these timings, playing to their max. Even that lane matchup for Lelouch, he knew what he had to do against the Snap. He went for Sleight of Fist, he went for Chains. He did not have Flame Guard. He knew that spell would be worthless in that lane. And he just played aggressively from there. I expected Motivate.Trust to maybe build off more from their Fearless mid-snap, but never got rolling. And you know what, Mike? We were seeing the same thing when we saw Boom play against Motivate.Trust, because Boom, they're a lower division team. Motivate.Trust going into DPC, they just got promoted to upper div. Polaris, they have to play through open qualifiers, if I recall right. So
Yeah.
that's a very strong message. All these teams kind of eyeing that next DPC season are sending to each other. You might be an upper div, but you got to watch your backs here.
Absolutely. Of course, John, we aren't going to have an immediate interview after this this series, as Polaris does have to take their break before they get into the best of 5 grand final against Boom Esports. So if they win there, of course, they'll get their interview. And if they don't, well, unfortunately, you don't get one. Still, we are going to have, I think, a 30-minute break. So a 30-minute break between now and the grand final starting. Of course, the timer will be updated. That'll hopefully keep you guys on track as to when we're going to start Game 1. Till then, though, it is MLP Dota and JohnXFire, and it's been a pleasure. We'll see you all again after that 30-minute break.